Okay, so I'm going to go over today of how to create this composition that we are going to be making for our next project, because it is an abstract oil pastel project. So I'm going to talk to you and go through on how we are going to create this composition by using the rule of thirds. So in order to do this, you're going to, so I'm going to move this to the side because this is an example of what we're making. And what you will need to create this project is you're going to need a 12 by 18 piece of paper, pretty large paper. Then you're going to need a pencil, and you're going to need a ruler, because just like we learned in class, this is going to be a composition that you are creating by using the rule of thirds for composition. So let's get to it. All right, so rule of thirds is used to create for your composition in order to create a visual interest, to make a more dynamic artwork. That is the reason why we use the rule of thirds to create this artwork. This using the rule of thirds is going to put your focal point off center. So I do not want anything located in this center part. We want to keep that open. So how we're going to get this is we're going to create a grid on here to give us 4 intersecting areas in order for us to create our focal point on it by rotating it, flipping our shape or something. We're going to go over the shapes in just a second with that. Alright, so to do this, what I want you to do is, I'm going to lift up my paper a little bit. I'm going to use my ruler. Now this is a 12 by 18 paper, and we're going to divide this paper into 12 sections. I'm sorry, 9 sections by using the rule of thirds. Alright, I'm just going to turn on my lights where we can really see. Okay, so we're going to create the paper into 9 equal sections. Well, not equal, but into 9 sections. Because the rule of thirds, that is how we're doing it. We're breaking it down. So how we're going to do this is a 12 by 18 paper or 18 by 12. It doesn't matter what you call it. So if we look at the 12 inches, we can divide 12 into 3. We get the number 4. So what we're going to do is use our rulers on this edge to mark where the 4 and the 8-inch marks are, and on this side too it will be marked 4 and 8. Then somewhere here in the middle we're going to do a 4 and 8 to help our ruler go across. We'll go over that in just a second. On this edge is going to be your 18 inches, is our longer edge. And we can also divide 18 into 3. We get the number 6. So we're going to be marking where the 6 and the 12-inch marks are over here, and the 6 and the 12 on that end. So I'm going to create this one first. So with that being said, I'm going to take my ruler. I'm not going to line it up with the edge of the ruler. Instead, I am going to line it up with the 0. So with this being the 18-inch, we divided by 3, that's 6. So I'm going to mark where the 6-inch is lightly, and I'm going to mark where the 12-inch is lightly, because that would be 6 inches, another 6 inches, and then 6 more inches. Alright, so I like to rotate my paper opposed to moving my ruler, because I like to have control of my ruler. So here I have it lined up between the 0 and the 12. And on this one, because it's the 12-inch side, we are going to mark where the 4 is, and we're going to mark where the 8 is. Again, rotating my paper because I prefer to rotate my paper than my hand. We are now going to line up this edge of this paper with the 0 again of this ruler, and we're going to mark where the 6-inch mark is, and we're going to mark where the 12-inch mark is. And on our last edge, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to line it up between the 0 and the 12. And I'm going to mark where my 4-inch mark is, and I'm going to mark where my 8-inch mark is. Alright, and then like I said before, I'm going to bring my ruler somewhere up here in the middle. It does not have to be exactly in the middle. You just want it somewhere here in the middle. I'm going to line my paper up between the 0 and the 12, and I'm going to lightly mark where the 4 inches, and I'm going to lightly mark where the 8-inch is. Alright, now we are simply going to connect the edge dots. So I'm going to start right here on my long edge because I already got my paper in portrait style, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so I'm going to line up my ruler with this mark we made on the 18-inch edge, and I'm going to line it up with the first mark on this side of the 18-inch edge. So taking my ruler, make sure that my ruler is touching both marks that I made. I'm going to hold it down firmly in the middle. Take my pencil, kind of hold it up, but I want my pencil point right along that ruler's edge. And I'm just going to drag my pencil across with barely enough pressure to leave a mark. Then I'm going to do the same thing with our second mark right here. Line up to 2 edges. Make sure my ruler is right there next to it. Hold down firmly my ruler in the middle and drag my pencil across. Now, since our ruler cannot fit fully across, this is where that middle mark is going to work. So, just like I did before, make sure line up my ruler with both marks, make sure my ruler is touching, and drag my pencil across. Oops, see, that looks a little off, so let me double check that I did this part right. And I didn't. I marked where the 9-inch is. You see, even I can make mistakes, but I went and fixed it. There we go, because I am like 1 inch too high. All right, we go and do this. And then now I am going to make the last part of the last line of my grid. I'm going to hold down firmly, run my pencil across, do this, and then I'm going to do it on this edge. If it's not exactly perfect, don't worry about it. You'll still get the same results. It's okay. We just need to make sure we're just creating something that's going to keep your focal point off center. Okay, so in class, we explored the element shape, and I had you draw several different kinds of organic shapes and geometric shapes. Because I did tell you you needed a shape of each. Here's another trapezoid, rectangle. Here we have a large triangle. And then some of my organic shapes that we have. And here's another organic shape. And then I also have like this big area right here that is a organic, and then I also have this geometric. So in class we kind of explored, and we were, I told you to come up with several examples of organic shapes and several examples of geometric. Then I told you after you did that was that you're going to have to choose 2 shapes. You want the 2 shapes to be complementary of each other. Meaning, like, this one's like very curvy and movable, you might want to go something with a more simpler and more of with an edge and those sharp, nice edges. If you want something with something very simple, you might want to go into something with more of movement inside of this. Now in class, I told you you had to choose one dominant shape or one big shape that's going to be your big shape to create your focal point, and then one type of shape has to be your overlapping shape or your supporting shape, smaller shape, whatever you want to say. But they have to be noticeably different. I need to be able to tell which is which. So for example, if I chose this shape right here, this is an organic shape. Well, if I chose that, then I cannot choose another organic shape. I must go and choose an geometric shape. So I can easily choose something like this. Do they look good? Yes. Can I definitely tell which one's bigger? absolutely, you can go a little bit bigger with this if you would like. But that is how you were doing that. And the same can go with a geometric. I might want a huge triangle for my geometric. And if I want something with like that, that's very angular and very big, then I might go something with a little bit more curve in there to show that it is definitely organic, to create some of that contrast. So choose one geometric, one organic, and decide which one you want bigger. So I think I am going to go with this shape here. I don't know, it's kind of unique, kind of speaking to me. So I think I'm going to use this one. So there's that shape. Then for my geometric shape, in order for me to create what I need, I am thinking I might go with this little shape here, or I can also go with a more of a rectangular shape. I think this triangle is going to be too small, or I can even go with a more of a trapezoid. But I think I'm going to stick to the T. Alright, so this will be my overlapping shape. I'm going to kind of put it there for later. Okay, so here's my shape. Now the rule of thirds says you cannot in no way, shape, or form put your shape here in the middle, nor can you put your shape in the middle like this. That's no, wrongo, ex-nay, can't do it. Instead, what you have to do is you have to do it around these 4 intersections. And then when you get to that intersection, you're gonna like treat it like a rotating axis. So what I mean by that is you can rotate around it, you can flip back and forth, but you keep rotating it until you like it. You can go very high with it, you can go very low with it. You can go somewhat in the middle, just not exactly in the middle, or you could come far away from the middle. That is up to you. The only thing I require is that if you do your focal point, this one shape has to be at least one of these shapes have to be fully on your paper, and if that's going to be the shape, that will be your focal point. So I'm going to kind of look here, kind of see how I want to put my focal point, and then I'm going to do that. I want to create some very visually interesting stuff. So I'm going to look at this, and I think I kind of like my focal point being just like that. So I'm going to hold down my shape, holding my pencil straight up. I am going to trace right around this shape. And there I have my shape, my focal point. Now, how I know that this is my focal point is I'm going to either label it with an F, or you can label it with an X. I don't care which one. But just indicate to me in some way, shape, or form that this is your focal point. Now, when you put your focal point down, it's stuck. It cannot move. We do not want to move it. It's like it's concreted right here in this area. Instead, now, what we're going to do is we're going to use this grid that I have on here to evenly distribute this shape by rotating it and flipping it over and creating it in different variations by using this, and but make sure it does not look like my focal point. I don't want any other shape kind of competing with my focal point. So now we're going to use the principle of variety and repetition. I'm going to change around this stencil in a variety of ways and repeat it all over here. So we're only going to focus on this shape, not my overlapping it. We're just going to focus on this shape. So how you can use your grid is, again, I'm going to go back into portrait style. So one thing that you can do is before you go up there and try to do the shape and all that, instead what we're going to do is I'm going to use these bottom 3 boxes to help me distribute this shape, for we can balance out our work. So that's another principle we're using. We're using balance. You need to create asymmetrical balance, but you also have to make sure that this is equally distributed and it still looks visually balanced. All right, so if I look at my shape here and I'm looking at this line and below, I can see that to put my next shape, I can see that I have a big empty spot here. So I'm going to rotate this in a certain way that's going to take up a lot of this negative space. Now, things I do not want to see, as I do not want to see any corner suns, as I call it. Meaning I don't want to see your shape kind of nestled here in the and coming from the corner and like it's just coming out of this corner. I don't want that. So make sure that you're rotating it in a way that if you're going to use this corner, it doesn't look like it is just running out of this corner. And when you rotate this and you are making things, you do not want to create too much of a small space in order to, because you're going to have to blend, you're going to have to put color there, so be careful. I can flip this over, see how I like it. I don't like that because it might create a little area, so I'm going to say X-nay to that. And here I can take away my small little area, but still leave me some good distance around here. So I think this is a good area in order to put down my next shape. I am putting down the silhouettes of these shapes. Okay, so that is the next shape silhouette. Now before I even go up, I'm going to finish doing it the equal distribution down here. So one other area I have that's pretty big is this part right here. And what I would like to do is find a way, again, not to have the shape come out of the corner or nor nestle in the corner, is I'm going to rotate this shape in several different ways to give me something interesting. Give me some, that way it creates some very interesting and negative space, something that's visually aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time meeting the criteria of the rubric. So let's try it like this. Let's see if I like it like this. Does it? Again, I don't want it too close. I want to make sure that they are equally apart. I don't like that. I feel like that is looking mighty the same as it is down here. So I'm going to flip it because I don't want it to look like this shape and I don't want it to look like this shape. But at the same time, I don't want to create small spaces for me. So I think I can make this part work. I don't think I can make that part work, so nope. I think those are too close, so I think it definitely needs to be this way, and we're just going to have to make this work. Okay, so I think this is a good area, and I think I know how I'm going to take care of that spot. I think I'm just going to bring it down just a little bit more. There we go. I think this is something very nice right here. All right, so I am going to trace. And I do want your shapes to go off the page, so make sure that your shapes are going off the page because you are going to have to go off every edge of this paper. All right, so that is the 3 shapes. I don't think I could really fit any more in there, not even a part of it. So now I'm going to move up. And the next shape I'm going to put down is going to be based on this shape and my focal point. And as you can tell, I do have some big empty areas right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to now do the same thing. Come over here, rotate this shape a certain way, see how it looks. Just kind of make it a little bit different from my focal point, because I don't want to make it look like my focal point like did a flipperoo. So, and again, not creating small spaces, making sure I have some, but not vast oceans either, so make sure you are doing this correct. Alright, so now I am going to now trace my shape silhouette right here. And we're still using this grid to help us just evenly distribute it. Alright, so the next part, if we're using this line and down to use these next three boxes, is I do know I see a big empty negative area over here. So now I want to make sure that I am flipping around this. There we go. I might just use this axis a little bit to do some flipping, and then I can use a part of this shape in order to eat up some of that negative space, and I'll show you in just a second. Do you think this can be pushed over a little bit? I think this is a very good area to put another shape, keeping them equally distanced. So now I'm going to trace this one. Alright, and now we're going to do that. Okay, but I do have some of this empty area, so when we're done with everything, if I feel like I need to just use like maybe a part of the shape to kind of help fill it in, I will. But I can also use my overlapping space. Alright, now I'm going to flip my paper over to help me work on this last section. So now to be able to put any more shapes on here, I'm going to be using the shapes I already have on here. So for instance, like if I have this shape right here, I do know I have some big empty area right here, but I also have some big empty areas over here. And again, just rotating this shape in some form that's not going to create small sections. Let's try rotating it like this. Let's see, maybe away. Because essentially what you want to do is look like you put this pattern or this design from like a piece of wallpaper or something, and the shapes and all that are continuously going off the paper. Alright, there's that one. Do kind of like that. Now I'm going to base my next shape rotation or section or whatever. I'm going to base it on these two right here, and then I will fill in this one last. So I do kind of like this. I think it's a good way to fill in this area. So I think I'm going to do that, and you try not to also overcrowd your composition. Trying to keep your composition in a nice little manner. And the last thing I have is this part right here. And again, going over it again, no small areas. The background won't be too bad, but you will have to do some sort of blending in there, so just make sure that you are taking that into account as you are situating these shapes. I do kind of like that. I do like that it's creating some sort of visual interest, creating some very creative negative space. I think this is a good I think this is a good position. So I think this is going to be my last big shape that's going to be in this composition. Now I want you to look at this, make sure we're not creating rows, make sure that we've really like moved around this shape and we evenly distribute it to the best of our ability. So now that we have laid down all of that dominant shape, we are now going to use our overlapping shape. And the rubric says you have to rotate it in at least 3 areas. You can do more, but you cannot do less. So when you go to rotate it, you're going to follow the same variety and repetition rule. We're going to be constantly rotating it, and we're going to be flipping it. You kind of wanted to allow it to eat up some of this negative area. You can have it overlap your focal point. I try not to because that's just me. It's just how I like my artwork. But it's not wrong. And when you go to create this as your focal point, you just got to make sure you just do this one shape, not both. So I am looking at this, and I do know that something needs to be eaten up right here. So maybe, much to my dismay, I just might have to overlap my focal point, and that's going to be okay. But I can also have it off of this one. I think I might do that instead. Okay, now when you are overlapping these shapes, because you still have to blend in these shapes too, and you're going to have to fill in color where they overlap. So when you overlap this, again, you do not want to create small areas. So, but you can also use the border of your shapes to kind of help you lay this down and be able to give you nice areas. But you do not want to create small spaces again, because you will have to blend inside the shape and around the shape. So make sure that you are choosing wise areas in order to rotate. So here I have this part, and I do have enough to put a color in there and plus blend. Alright, so let's choose another area that that needs some filler or needs some filling. So I see this area right here, but this is going to look. Now, one thing I do not want to see, I do not want to see the shape totally into that other shape. Nope, it cannot be like that. And it can't be a free floating shape either. You don't need that either. This can only overlap this shape. One thing that I can do is to help me eat some of this negative space by also making sure I'm equally distributing this shape. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, I kind of like this area right here, and it's okay if my shape goes off the page. This is good too. It's completely okay. Wait, guys, my computer went to sleep. Hold on. I gotta log back into it. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, there we go. Alright, so the next one I'm going to put is right here. It's okay if it goes off paper. Absolutely okay. Take your time to do this very nice and neatly. We're in no rush. And that is what we're going to do. Alright, so there's that nice little area right there. That did take up some of that space that needed to be eaten up. One other area that needs to be eaten up, I feel, is over here in this area. But again, I want to make sure that I don't create small places where I cannot bend, or it will cause me aggravation, because then you're going to want to throw your project away, and I'm going to be like, nope, you have to do it because I need a grade. So take your time, rotate it, see how you like it. Make sure they're not looking like each other because we don't need twins. Some areas too, you might be able to overlap the shape and it goes into two shapes. That is fine too. Just make sure, again, we're not creating too small of areas to add color, blend, or anything else that you may need. That's going to create a small area there. That's going to create a small area. Alright, so maybe me wanting to show you how it can work is not going to work. But we can try. Don't like that. Let's see if we can do an upside down T over here. Let's see, will it work with this one and still give me some area, good area to not it's not going to throw off my blending too bad. Alright, I think this one would be fine. I think this is a very fine way to put that shape right here. So I'm going to try the shape right here. Again, trying not to overcrowd my composition. I want to, but at the same time, making sure I'm filling my picture plane. It is a delicate balance. Okay, so that's the three areas. So, okay, I already met the criteria, but I do feel like I can distribute it a little bit more. So, that is what I'm going to do. I feel like I can still get some good blending if I put this T-shape here. Yeah, I can still get some good blending around there. You're just going to have to take your time, work on your craftsmanship, and put some effort in here to make sure that you are doing this correctly. Erase that one. But at the same time, I'm making sure that my composition is not being overcrowded. Even if I have to stand up and look away from it, I will. And I suggest you do the same too. Like I want to have this T-shape like kind of standing up, but I don't need it too close to that one. No, I think that's fine. And I don't know, I think this one will work too. Because I want like it going up too. And if I do two here, it'll be 2, 1. I think this would work. Get feedback. Ask people around you. Ask your neighbor. Always get feedback. Feedback always helps. Class, I'm going to ask you about my composition. Like, hey, how do you like my composition? Does it work? Look at the rubric. Does it follow the rubric? And you're going to have to tell me. All right, I'm going to look. I'm also going to flip it to give it another angle to see if maybe I feel like I need to fill one in here. And I do. I'm thinking that maybe I might have to bring this one down and fill this area instead. Because right when I flipped it upside down, I saw my composition from another angle, I saw that it has to be another way. So don't always just look at your composition one way. Flip it around, bring it upside down. It does make you see your composition in another light, another way, and it really makes your brain think. Okay, so I'm going to look at this. And I do think that is a better rotation or a better overlapping position than where it was before. So I'm glad I turned it over. Alright. This is why we do it in pencil first. That way you can't erase it when you are like me, Miss Gerald, and you want to change your mind. It is okay. Alright, so I'm kind of going to look around, see if I need any other areas, make sure I'm not creating duplicates or anything like that. I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is a great thing. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the next part of this project. And we are now going to trace this whole entire composition with a black permanent fine point pen, marker, or also known as just a regular Sharpie. So where we won't get it on the bottom of my table, I'm going to use a piece of paper, a rubric, and I'm going to put it underneath here to catch where my marker is going to go off, and also to in case this bleeds. So take your time in tracing this. Take your time tracing it and creating a nice line quality. You do not need to be rushing. This is not a marathon. I mean, not a race. This is a marathon. You need to take your time with this. Okay. Then I'm going to also trace the overlapping shape. Yes, I do want the lines to be inside of the shape, each shape. We'll do this. I am going to do that. Okay, so that is the first shape. I'm going to move to this area right here because, you know, why not? Okay. I'm going to do this. I think this is a lot better of a composition than what I created on the last video. That last video, I think I got a little too happy with my shapes, and the shapes kind of grew, and it was looking some busy. So here I am fixing my mistake and making a new composition. All right, that is, oh wait, this part. All right, so that is that shape. Now I'm going to trace my focal point. If you want to get out your shapes and trace around them with your marker now, you can. Me, I'm okay. It's abstract. So it's okay if they're not exactly perfect. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to now move to this section right here and trace this one. Oil pastels have a tendency of just like highlighting and showing right where your hard line pencil marks are. So I will see them, especially if you use something with light. So make sure that you are light marks you are erasing. Also too, when you go in here to blend, sometimes that graphite can make your oil pastels look gross. At least that's my opinion. So this is a good way to seal it, but it's also a good way for you to see your boundaries. That way you don't go too crazy out of it. All right, I'm going to now do this part right here. All right, there's that. I'm going to kind of rotate my paper, because again, I just like having control of my hand. And see, I did create a small area, so I'm going to have to be very careful whenever I start blending. trace from this end. There we go. Like I said, make sure you take your time to get good line quality. And I am now going to trace this area. All right. How do I keep line quality? I make it just a little bit thicker where I messed up. All right. And last but not least are these two sections right here. So I'm going to do this one first, I think. Okay, and then last but not least now is this one. So I am now going to do that. Okay, so that is them all traced. And this is what it should look like at this point. Now, before we go, I'm going to do one last thing before I end this video. We're now going to erase all of our pencil marks. So grab a large white eraser. This one kind of needs to be clean, so I think I'm going to make sure it's clean before I use it. Okay. So now we're just going to sit here and we're going to erase. If we accidentally erase the F and the X, it's okay. We'll go back and put it. So now I am just going to take my time and make sure that I erase all my pencil marks. It's a good way to even work on your craftsmanship. Oops, and do this. On these edges, I kind of just go back and forth, because if not, you can grab that paper and it could bend your paper and make your paper all wonky, and we don't want that. All right, so now I'm going to go and clean this. All right. And like I said, do not put color on your table. Don't start working with color until you turn this into me. Because this is part of your grade, is composition, rule of thirds, and me making sure that you are doing this correct. All right. Let's see, I got a pencil mark here. Kind of double checking as I move down. All right, and then I got this one, that one. There we go. And I'm going to get that one. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to find more, and I'll just keep erasing. So just give yourself your composition a once over. Make sure you got all of the pencil marks as much as you can. And then I will show you how we are going to go from here. All right.